Greetings everyone, Brad here with Mild Mannered EDC. And today I want to do a review on a knife that's been around a little while. It's not super new, but it is relatively new to my collection, and it is a first for my collection as well. It's a pretty unique little bugger. So let's go ahead and break it out. And that's this. This is the Protech Magic. Well, okay, so it's the Protech Magic BR1 Whiskers. or some variation of those words in there. It's designed by Mike Whiskers Allen. He's a knife designer out of Texas. That's where you get the Whiskers name. But yeah, it's the Protech Magic, and it's called a Magic for a specific reason, and we'll talk about that obviously when we get into the action. But as you might have noticed right there, this is an automatic knife. That's right. So here in the state of Washington, where I live, automatic knives are not illegal to own. But they are illegal to carry. So, do I carry this outside of the house? I don't know. I'll never tell. But I do certainly carry it around the house from time to time. And actually more often than not. It's a really, really interesting knife, and it's quickly become one of my favorites. In fact, it's a knife that I had my eye on for a really long time. I think it was Nick Shabazz's review way back when that really got me interested in this knife, and I had been waiting, and finally came across this gray one. I think I got it at Smoky Mountain Knife Works or something like that, and I just was like, whoa, I've never seen the gray one before. I gotta get it. So I did. So there you go. So that's the knife I want to talk about today. So let's go ahead and get this review underway. We're just going to do a classic mild-mannered review here. So we'll talk blade, we'll talk action, we'll talk scales, handle, and hardware, and then we'll talk ergos and carry. So let's get a spec check out of the way real quick here. We've got a blade length on this Protech Magic of 3.125, so a very reasonable sized blade. A blade thickness of 0.11, which is right in the wheelhouse for me. I really like those, 0.10, 0.11. A handle length when closed up of 4.125 inches. And a handle thickness of 0.45 inches. And then an overall tip to tail of 7.25 inches. And a weight of 3.10 ounces. So ounces. So this sneaks right under that ounce an inch thing with that 3.125 inch blade. So if that's something that matters to you, this one definitely sneaks under that magic ratio. So let's maybe do a few size comparisons. So we've got obviously the Protech Magic there. How about this good old mild-mannered Bestech Swordfish? How about a mild-mannered classic Swiss Army knife? There you go. How about, since I've got it on the table here, a Civivi Elementum. And actually, you can see that the Civivi and the Magic are pretty close to being just about the same size. And then maybe one more here, we'll do a Kershaw Copper Natrix Small. So there you go. I mean, it's a very middle of the road, yeah, maybe even small on the smaller side as knives go. Really in a sweet spot, though, for me and I think a lot of people. So there you go. That's the Protech Magic specs and size. Now, let's go ahead and talk blade. So let me get this blade out of there. Yeah, that's really fun. So one of the reasons this is a first in my collection, and I'm going to mention it because it's right there, is it's a Protech. And you can see it right there on the blade. That's who makes this interesting knife. And I have never owned a Protech. I had heard lots about them, obviously. I'd handled them before. I'd seen them. But I never actually owned one. So this is the first Protech that I've ever had, and yeah, I'm pretty sure it won't be the last. It's pretty cool. So anyways, just a little aside there because I saw the name. But as you can see, it's Protech. It's USA. There's some markings there on the blade. We've got a drop point blade on this with a really attractive looking swedge. It is a flat grind. It is stonewashed. A stonewash finish here. It comes in a couple different versions. I mean, we'll talk about the scales, but the blades also, you can get blacked out versions. I think there's a couple other maybe, but there you go. It's in a 154 cm, which, it's an older steel, certainly. It's not CPM 154, so this isn't the particle metallurgy, as they say, but it is a great steel. It's actually one of my favorite steels. It takes a really good edge, strops up beautifully. It's easy to sharpen. I'm not huge on blades that take me forever to sharpen since I'm not the greatest sharpener in the world. So yeah, it's a steel I like quite a bit. So yeah, so there you go. It's a very slicey blade, nice thin grind, just a handsome blade. I mean, it's just a really attractive blade. I mean, these are the kind of blade styles that I tend to gravitate towards. I've said before, clip points, drop points, that's really mostly in my wheelhouse. I really like the look of it. Now, there's no jimping anywhere on the blade. So there you go. And you can see, as to be expected, I think, from Protech, perfectly, ground, great sharpening choil, no miss anywhere around there. So apart from the blade, let's get to the fun part now, the action. So this is an automatic knife, right? So the action is automatic. It comes flying right out. Why they call it the magic, and I think everybody knows this at this point, but if you don't, this particular scale has a little, you can see the outlines of it right there. It's got this bolster that slides back and forth. And so as you push this over, there you go, it deploys the blade. And you can see that when I do it here. See that? It just separates just like that. And that's all you have to do. And that's why there's a little texture on there. I generally am finding, this I kind of do, but I also tend to grab it kind of right by the edge with my thumb and slide it. So there you go. Yeah, but the interesting thing about this as an auto, and it's certainly a very snappy auto. Like, yeah, I mean, that's Protech to a T, right? And like I said, I'd handled them before, but now owning it, I mean, it's just a cool action. No blade play, no blade rock. It did come a little loose, and so all you have to do is pop this off, a couple of T6s there, you pop them off, and then you have direct access to the pivot, and so you can tighten that pivot down just like you would any other normal knife, which is pretty cool. And in fact, in many ways, this is a relatively normal knife. This is basically just a backlock that is actuated by this little bolster mechanism there. So it's pretty cool. So there you go. So yeah, it's got a great action. One of the things that I think is really unique, as I was saying before I got off on a little bit of a tangent there, is it's not only obviously one hand open, but it's pretty darn easy to just close with one hand. Just like that. I mean, it really takes no effort. And in some ways, I'm actually more comfortable with this than I am with some, speed safe knives, for example, where I find that action, kind of overcoming that spring action to close it can be a challenge sometimes, and it can make you nervous and get you cut. In fact, I've been cut by more than one speed safe knife just for that very reason. So I was really pleasantly surprised by that I was just able to make this a very comfortable one-hand opening knife. The other thing that I thought was really interesting, and I'm definitely, this is not my original thought. This is something I got from Nick Shabazz, a few years ago or whenever he did his review. And that's that it can be opened sort of quietly. You can, you know what I mean? So if whipping out an automatic knife, wherever you might be, at the bus station or wherever, might freak some people out, so you can cut up your apple or do whatever you're doing. You can, easily hold the blade kind of like this, do the little secret actuation there, and then it almost looks like you're opening up a slip joint or something. So very, very cool. So credit to Nick Shabazz for making that point, but I think it's one that's very real and is to be acknowledged, and certainly one that I think makes sense, particularly in a state like mine where, you gotta be careful if you're carrying an auto, because you could get in trouble for that. So, and I certainly wouldn't recommend that. But again, know your own knife laws, and make your own decisions. But yeah. So action wise, everything you'd think of a Protech, including this really, really unique actuation method, which is this cool little bolster mechanism that springs it right open. So it's just cool. I mean, it's got a fantastic fidget factor. In fact, this is one that it's kind of off the charts when it comes to fidgetability. So there you go. There. I mean, the action is that, right? I mean, it's an automatic knife, but does that very, very well. Okay. So scales and handle. Let's talk about that. So Protech, as is common of Protech, these are aluminum scales, right? And to be honest with you, They've grown on me. When I first took this out of the box, I was like, ooh, I'm not sure I like that. They have kind of this interesting texture. I've heard it described as chalky, or, I don't know. Having carried it, and I don't know if it's just the oils in my hand or maybe being in my pocket or whatever, it's almost as if it's smoothed out or it's gotten some sort of patina across it that has kind of taken away that texture. And so now it's got a feeling of very smooth, very, very nice, very comfortable. Certainly one, I just like it. It feels very good in the hand. It's really fun to kind of open and feel. And yeah, I mean, but this is a very simple design in a lot of ways, and the scales are reflective of that. Now, the downside of aluminum is you're going to get these little things, right? You're going to get little scuffs, you're going to get little marks. Can you get that fixed or touched up? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. I'm sure Protech could do something for you, maybe. I don't know. I say that, but I don't actually know. I've never checked with them or seen on their website or anything. But yeah, so you got to expect to get a little bit of wear and tear on aluminum knives. That's just the nature of that handle material. So, would I like to have seen it in titanium or something like that? I guess, sure, but this was already a relatively expensive knife. And so, paying, it was over $200, and I'm sure titanium would have pushed that even further. So, I can live with it with aluminum, especially when you consider it's done very well. I mean, everything meets up. This bolster, everything's nice and flush. There's no snags. There's really no hot spots at all here with, and I guess that gets into ergos. But yeah, I mean, the aluminum and the scales is done very well. So no real complaints there if you can deal with aluminum. So let's talk hardware. Obviously, classic pivot screw or classic screws, Torque screws, whatever. They're all nicely recessed, which is nice. Really, really good pocket clip. So I had handled and known that about Protech for a while. Pocket clips are just something they do really, really well. And this one is no exception. As you can see, extremely deep carry. Again, a good thing if you're carrying an auto, I think. Yeah, I mean, that thing just disappears in the pocket. I really like that it's this sort of satin, kind of brushed or satiny looking steel clip. It looks really nice. And the screws, not only are they, they're totally countersunk, and they're panhead, the flat screws. So, I mean, yeah, it's just, there's nothing snagging anywhere on that. So it's a really, really nice clip. It's also a big clip as clips go. When you compare it to other clips that are out there, it's a pretty good sized clip. Yeah, I mean, which is great actually. And I think for a knife like this, it slides in there, it's secure, it stays there. Yeah, it's perfect. No worries there. So that's where we're going on hardware. Obviously, as I mentioned, pivot screw on the other side. It is not free spinning, so that's great. But yeah, hey, there you go, hardware and scales. So let's talk carry and ergos. So from an ergonomic standpoint, I mean, this is not a complicated design, but its simplicity, I think, is what makes it so attractive to me. So this just feels great. Not only is the clip not a hot spot, at least not for my hands, but just from an ergo standpoint, it's great. I mean, I'm sure you can hold it a lot of different ways, but for me, just a standard, or one of these, it's great. Feels good. No hot spots. As I said earlier, there's just no sharp. Everything's well done with the aluminum. Yeah, no hot spots for me at all. So there you go. Ergos, I think, are perfect. Run of the mill. Very good. So, and then carry. We talked about carry. Really deep carry. Fits securely in the pocket, no worry there. Obviously, you don't have a flipper tab to, bang up against anything. Again, maybe you get a little worried because if you carry keys and stuff in your front pocket like I do, are they going to bang up against this and scuff up your knife? Maybe. They very well may. But yeah, the only other thing I would note about, so I was a little, I'll be honest with you, I was a little apprehensive of an automatic knife in my pocket because I just was like, yeah, I don't know if I need that flying open in there. That's enough to kind of freak me out. And it's just not been a concern, especially when you have this in your pocket, it would open towards the back, sort of the seam of your pants. I mean, it's just, if you manage to even get it open. And in fact, I think that's one of the benefits of this type of opening mechanism as opposed to a push button is that you're not, this is a much more difficult thing to sort of accidentally engage. So, I mean, both the open and the close, frankly. I mean, if, from a button lock standpoint, which I like button locks, you have to sort of very mindfully do that to open and close it. So again, for carry, that wasn't a huge concern of mine, but it did sort of freak me out a little bit at the beginning, but not any longer, at least not for this particular design. So there you go. So those are the pieces we've talked about. So as I mentioned, I think I paid $208 or something along those lines for this particular knife. But again, it's been a knife that I wanted for a long time and was looking for and was really glad to get. They're not as readily available anymore. I don't believe Protech. I don't think they're still in production. I know there's a Cali legal version of this, which has a much smaller blade, obviously that 2-inch blade, that I think is probably still in production, but I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, I mean, this is one of those that, it's just something that I really wanted. So it's just plain and simple. And that's why I picked it up. It's made in the USA. It's got great materials. It looks really good. The action is awesome and extraordinarily unique. I mean, you just don't see a ton of these. You certainly don't see a lot of these gray ones. And I think that was the biggest appeal to me. One, I just like gray better than the black or the brownish looking of the other one. So this one really appealed to me. So there you go. This is my Protech magic, my first Protech, and I think it's a winner. I think I picked a good one. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you've handled the magic or if you have any Protech, just sort of what your opinion on Protechs are. And I look forward to reading those down in the comments and chatting with you about it. So thanks for checking this review out. Really appreciate it. If you like it, give it a thumbs up and, maybe consider subscribing to the channel if this is something you're interested in, or if you want to kind of support what I'm up to here. No pressure either way. But with that, I guess I'll say thanks for watching so much. Be safe out there. Be mild-mannered to one another, please. And all the best.